Most people hear the phrase house flipping and immediately picture fast money. Buy a distressed property, fix it up, sell it for more, walk away with a profit. Simple. That is the image people are sold over and over again. It shows up in success stories, real estate content, and polished before and after transformations that make the process look clean, controlled, and highly rewarding. From the outside, it seems like one of the quickest ways to build wealth. You find the right deal, make the right upgrades, and the market does the rest. And honestly, it is not hard to understand why that idea is so appealing. The formula sounds almost too good to ignore. A rundown house gets turned into something desirable. Value appears to be created in a short period of time. The profit looks visible, tangible, immediate. Compared to slower paths like long-term investing or gradual savings, flipping feels more exciting, more active, and far more dramatic. It also feels like a business model with clear logic behind it. If you can buy below market value, improve the property, and resell it at a higher price, then the difference should become profit. On paper, it looks like a straightforward equation. The numbers appear easy to understand, and the outcome seems tied to effort, planning, and smart decisions. That sense of control is part of what makes house flipping so convincing to so many people. But there is another reason the idea spreads so easily. People usually see the outcome, not the full process. They see the renovated kitchen, the fresh paint, the final listing price, the story of the investor who made tens of thousands on one deal. What they usually do not see is everything that happened underneath that result. The financial pressure, the mistakes, the delays, the costs that kept growing, and the risks that were never part of the original plan. And that's where the popular image of house flipping begins to separate from reality. Because while flipping can look like a fast track to wealth, that appearance can be dangerously misleading. What seems like a simple strategy from the outside often becomes far more complicated, expensive, and unforgiving once real money is involved. At first, the math seems easy. You buy a property below market value, put money into repairs and upgrades, then sell it for more than you paid. What is left over looks like profit. That is why house flipping feels so attractive in the beginning. On paper, it looks like a clean and logical strategy. Find the right deal, improve the house, sell at the right price, and make money. The process seems simple enough that many people assume success comes down to spotting opportunity and moving fast. There's a big difference between finishing a flip and making real money from a flip. A project can look successful from the outside because the renovation got done and the house sold, but that does not automatically mean the deal was truly profitable. There's also a major difference between the profit you expect at the beginning and the cash you actually keep at the end, and that is where the whole conversation changes. Most beginners ask a simple question: how much profit can I make on this house? But the better question is, after the hidden costs, delays, risk, and financing pressure, does this deal still make sense? Because success in house flipping is not just about selling for more, it's about whether the deal still works once reality starts pushing back. That's where a lot of beginners get misled. In the beginning, the numbers often look clean. The renovation budget seems manageable, the timeline feels realistic, and the resale price looks promising. But those early numbers are usually based on best-case assumptions. The budget grows, the project takes longer than expected, the final sale price disappoints, and the profit people imagined starts shrinking fast. A deal can look amazing before the real world gets involved. And even then, many people still focus on the wrong number. They look at the difference between the purchase price and the resale price and treat that gap like profit. But that is not what they actually keep. Real profit gets reduced by closing costs, financing costs, holding costs, agent commissions, contractor overruns, permits, inspections, utilities, and taxes. On paper, the margin may look exciting. In real life, the leftover cash can be far smaller than expected. Then comes the renovation itself, which is where many flips start getting messy. Cosmetic upgrades are easy to plan for. Paint, flooring, lighting, fixtures, that part feels predictable. The real trouble usually starts when the work goes deeper. Once walls are opened or systems are checked, problems begin to appear. Plumbing issues, electrical problems, mold, roof damage, drainage trouble, code violations, even foundation concerns. What looked like a manageable update can quickly turn into a much larger and more expensive project. And while all of that is happening, time keeps costing money. Every extra week adds pressure. Loan payments continue, insurance continues, taxes continue, utilities continue. Contractors get delayed, schedules shift, and the timing of the resale becomes less favorable. In house flipping, time is not just a delay, it is a direct financial cost. Even worse, the market can still destroy the deal after all the work is done. The renovation may go well, but outside conditions can change fast. Interest rates can rise, buyer demand can weaken, comparable sales can drop, inventory can increase, and suddenly the house sits longer than expected. So even when the project itself runs reasonably well, the market can still ruin the outcome. To see how this plays out, imagine two investors starting with the same amount of capital. One chooses an aggressive flip with tight margins and heavy borrowing because the potential payout looks bigger. The other takes a more conservative deal with a smaller but safer margin. At first, the aggressive investor appears more ambitious, but over time, the second investor often ends up in a stronger position because they protect their cash, reduce their risk, and avoid the kind of mistake that can wipe out months or years of progress. That is the brutal reality of house flipping. Sometimes the deal that looks bigger is actually weaker, and sometimes the safer decision is the one that leads to real, lasting success. One part of house flipping that almost nobody talks about is the cash flow pressure before the property even sells, because long before any profit shows up, money starts going out. You need cash up front. Repairs appear without warning. Contractor payments do not always line up neatly. Lender draw schedules can slow things down, and reserve funds can disappear faster than expected. That is why many flippers look profitable on paper while feeling stressed in real life. And that leads to a harsh truth. A flip can look successful in a spreadsheet while still damaging your finances. You might have no liquidity left, credit lines pushed to the limit, and one delay or surprise repair away from panic. On paper, the deal still looks alive. In reality, the financial pressure can become overwhelming. There's also a side of flipping that numbers alone do not capture. The psychological toll is real. Contractor issues keep showing up, decisions never seem to stop, the budget keeps demanding attention, and the uncertainty before resale can become exhausting. Add debt, holding costs, and a changing market, and what looked like a business opportunity can start feeling like constant pressure. A lot of people comfort themselves with one hopeful idea. They assume that if things get tight, appreciation will save the deal. They believe the market will rise enough to cover mistakes, delays, or extra costs. But house flipping does not work on the slow timeline of long-term real estate investing. It depends on short-term timing, and short-term markets do not always cooperate. When costs rise or buyer demand weakens, that hope can disappear quickly. So the better question is not how big can this flip be? The better question is how much room is there for mistakes? If the timeline slips, if costs rise, if demand cools, does the deal still survive? Is the margin strong enough to absorb reality? Because successful flipping is usually not about chasing the biggest spread. It's about protecting yourself on the downside. That means using conservative numbers, keeping reserve funds, buying with discipline, avoiding unnecessary renovations, and knowing your exit options before the pressure begins. In this business, stability beats excitement. And over the long run, that difference matters more than most people realize. Wealth in real estate is usually built through consistency, discipline, and risk control, not through one flashy deal. In fact, a single bad flip can erase the gains from several decent ones. That is why sustainable progress matters more than dramatic wins. In the end, house flipping is not automatic, easy money. The real danger is not the visible work, it is the hidden financial pressure, the thin margins, and the risks that people underestimate at the beginning. Sometimes the smartest investor is not the one chasing the biggest flip, but the one who knows when a deal is too fragile to touch. Real wealth is built through disciplined decisions, not exciting projections. And the brutal reality of house flipping is that one bad assumption can destroy the entire profit. If this changed the way you think about house flipping, subscribe for more practical insights on real estate, money, and long-term wealth building.